faith. Have faith. Believe in your source. Have faith.
Welcome to Artists, Icons, and Entrepreneurs, the podcast that dives deep into the stories of trailblazers who shape our world. Our co-host, Lulu Benavidez, is a seasoned entrepreneur in the beauty industry, is a photographer, artist, and the proud owner of Lulu's The Salon in Galveston, Texas. Our other co-host, Krokonis Hanson, is a visionary in the entrepreneurial world with years of experience in business innovation and development. Together, they bring you insights, inspiration, and the journeys of remarkable individuals who have made their mark. And with that, let's get started. Tony Beckerman has been a leader and educator within the hair and beauty profession for over 50 years. Originally from London, England, Tony was one of the original team members for Vidal Sassoon, where he started and learned his methods in the early 1960s. Tony's haircutting skills have impressed audiences throughout the world. In 1970, Tony was asked to relocate with the Sassoon organization into the USA to help start and teach American hairdressers the soon-to-become famous Vidal Sassoon precision system of haircutting. He traveled throughout the USA and Canada demonstrating his skills in hair and communication to tens of thousands of hairdressers. Tony became the face of Sassoon techniques. He moved from New York City to San Francisco in the middle 70s to open up the first Vidal Sassoon Advanced Academy in America. Tony's close friendship with Vidal lasted for over 50 years until Mr. Sassoon passed away in 2011. Tony is still as well known as he ever was within the hair world. He has trained and mentored many of the top names in the hair business. Tony is also featured in the Vidal Sassoon autobiography and the movie documentary called Vidal Sassoon, the Movie. Over the years, Tony learned about the chemistry of products so that he could put his hairdressing knowledge into developing hair products that really work. Over the past 25 years, Tony has been credited for developing some of the most innovative hair products for many of the top companies in the world. Today, Tony lives in beautiful San Diego County, where he and his team continue to motivate and develop for those whose standards are high. TSB Cutting Edge Resources is a consulting company built on the principles of developing quality hair products and providing reliable and friendly service at an affordable cost. Their diversified product development service continues to grow by following trends, technology, and listening to the customer, while always improving their standards and knowledge. Their unique service has established their place in this industry. This allows them to make a distinctive and substantial impact for their clients using ingredients that are the best from nature and the latest from science.
Welcome to Artists, Icons, and Entrepreneurs. And we're so excited about this episode. My good friend, Tony Beckerman, is here to join us. But before we start, I'm going to introduce my co-host, Sue Krokonis Hanson. And Sue, you want to go ahead and start?
Froze.
Go ahead.
Well, I certainly do, because Tony, you are absolutely the epitome of an artist, an icon, and an entrepreneur. You have been an educator with Sassoons in London and here in the United States. You've been an educator for more than 50 years. You've done global events, not only every major show in the United States, but I would say globally. But the big question that I want to ask, it must have been such a thrill for you working with Lulu at Matrix. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, with that introduction, I want to get to know myself. Actually, Lulu and I, we had some great times. You know, we worked together at Matrix, and we had a whole team. We were working on various different products and product lines, and we were doing a cutting session called Craft, and it was really it was new for a lot of people. It wasn't new for me because that's what I learned. We just named it Craft,
Yeah.
And it was an exciting time, and Lulu was like my right hand. She was always on top of it, and she always gave me a lot of push. In other words, if it didn't work, you can bet your life Lulu would make sure that I knew it. You know, we had, but most important, like anything should be when it's good, we had fun. And that was always good, And Lulu's a top professional, and it's great to be on this video with her and with you, Sue, and anybody else that happens to be listening or watching. Actually, you guys should know. You see what we've gone through to get onto this video.
That's for
I
sure.
wanted to say artist, icon, entrepreneur, and technical genius. Because what we've done today, oh my goodness.
Yes.
Yeah. But I had to start off that way because, as you know, Lulu is very humble. She holds you in high regards. And I could just see her eyebrow go up a little bit when I asked you that question. So I'm having fun.
Good.
Well, kidding aside, let's start in the beginning because you have such a wealth of knowledge and history behind you. You work with Vidal Sassoon and all the others, Christopher, Christopher, what's his name?
Brooker, yeah. And Vidal Sassoon, soon.
And Vidal Sassoon.
Soon to be soon, yes.
So could you tell us the names of who you work with?
Well,
And where are you from? Where are you originally from?
I'm originally from London, England. I'm from north part of London, and I worked, of course, with Vidal Sassoon since I was just 15 years old. And I left school at 15, and I wanted to be a hairdresser, mainly because I saw there was a lot of nice-looking women, and I thought that would be an exciting trade or business to go into. We say business. I didn't even know what the word business was. So, at that age, all you want to do is what's going to be next. My main thing was I wanted to leave school. And I went to Vidal Sassoon in London, in the West End of London, which was on Bond Street, New Bond Street. And I actually went in there, and it was interesting. My father took me to about 4 different salons because he said to me, if you want to be a hairdresser, you've got to be with the best. Well, of course, my dad was a tailor, and we know very poor people. We didn't have any money or anything, so we didn't have any influence. So he started to ask people around, who's the upcoming hairdressers? And somebody said René of Paris, somebody said Dumas, and somebody said Carita, and somebody said Vidal Sassoon, except that we couldn't pronounce that name. So that was the last one we went to. We didn't do anything. We thought Vidal Sassoon sounds like a weirdo. And I went into, I started to go into René. We went in there for an interview. I didn't like the place. It wasn't that I knew what was good or bad. I just didn't like the atmosphere. It was a bunch of people, little guys with little beards running around screaming at each other. And it was just not something that I felt comfortable in. And then my father asked out, which is really serendipity, this is. My father asked our next door neighbour. Now, I remember we're in Stamford Hill, London. It was at that time a very low-end Jewish neighborhood. So all the neighbors knew everybody. We went, my dad went to Mr. Goldberg, who lived next door. And he said to him, he was saying, yeah, my son's going to try and be a hairdresser. He said, oh, hairdressing. He said, my brother's stepson is a hairdresser. I said, oh, my dad said, oh, what's his name? He said, Vidal Sassoon.
Oh my God.
Oh, my dad said, oh, so anyway, we never used that as an in. But from that point, my dad said, let's go see this salon. So we went to Vidal Sassoon in Bond Street. At that time, it was Vidal only who did the interviewing. And we went in there. My dad said to me, and remember, I'm only a kid at 15. He said, my son wants to be a hairdresser. Are there any jobs open? And Vidal said, you look like a nice young man, but we don't need anybody right now. So we said, okay, well, thank you very much. And we started to leave. And then my dad turned around and he said, do you like the place? And I said, yeah. What happened is that all the people that were there, they were coming over and said, hi, how are you? Nice to see you. Good to see you. It was very, very warm atmosphere. And my dad said, let's try something. And he went over to Vidal and he said, excuse me, Mr. Sassoon, can my son work here on Saturdays for free so that he can see if he even likes the business? And Vidal thought, free, I mean, in those days. And Saturdays was the busiest day in the salon. So he said yes. So I started working there on a Saturday morning from 8 in the morning till about 3 in the afternoon. And I started working there on a Saturday, and then somebody left. And Vidal says, we've got an opening. Would you like it? And that's how I got into Vidal Sassoon. It was, as I said, not something that he planned, and it was probably the change of my life.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah. So it was great. And the day that I started, I had to start on full time on the Monday. I was so nervous I didn't go in. I stood outside and I watched everybody walking in and out, and I was too nervous to go in. And I sat in the coffee shop up in the other side of the road. And then eventually the next morning I went back in there, and I just told him that I was sick that day. I died day one, so. But it was a very, very interesting time, because firstly, you got to understand, Vidal Sassoon was not Vidal Sassoon that we know him of today. We hadn't done geometrics yet. We had not done precision hair cutting. Vidal Sassoon at that time was all the stylists in there were setting hair, washing hair, setting hair, backcombing it. It was the old days of hairdressing. And Vidal was trying to make a change at that particular point. I used to watch Maria Sugarman, who was one of the greatest hairdressers, and I learned so much from her.
Yeah.
And then there was this is all before Christopher and Roger. They hadn't joined the company yet. Joshua, none of those had joined yet. It was just Vidal, Leonard. I'm sure you've heard of Leonard of Mayfair. Leonard was the top stylist there, and I became his junior. Which was a great honour to have been worked for nearly a year under Leonard. There was Raphael, who you probably never know, Carlos and Linda and Sugar and Maria. There was a whole bunch of people that today you probably wouldn't know about, but that were the original team. And then many of them left because it was the typical days where it was a walkout. They all wanted to open up their own salons. So Leonard left, Raphael left, Carlos left, and a whole bunch left, and Vidal needed staff. In comes a man from a salon called Ivan and Gabriel, came Roger Thompson. And Roger was looking for a different position, and Vidal asked him to do a haircut. And it was so different to what Vidal had ever done, because Vidal was starting to get the really precision geometrics with his hands and his lines and perfection. And Roger was a soft hair cutter. Very, very soft. Everything he did had a softness to it. Roger was a sculpting artist. He would have clay and he would make everything. And when he did the hard line, he was left and right-handed all together. He'd hold the comb with his left hand, the scissors with his right hand. It would change. It would be a dance with his hands. Would be a dance, and it was very unique. And he got the job as a stylist. And he brought in his brother-in-law, who was Joshua Galvin.
Wow.
And Joshua was discovered because the two wives were married, Rita and Shirley. And I was still a junior at that particular point. And then Christopher came in the same way, came in from another salon. I think he came from a salon, but he was what we used to call a varderer. And that means vardering is to look. He wasn't actually a junior, but he came because he was a little more experienced, and he would be able to watch, and that's how he would learn the Sassoon techniques. But for me, back to me, I did my apprenticeship. There was a 3-year apprenticeship. I didn't do 3 years. I did a year and a half, and then they put me on the floor as a stylist. And let me tell you, was I ready? No way. I didn't even know what a style. I mean, my first client, I had 2 clients on my first day on a Saturday. One was in at 9 o'clock and one was in at 1 o'clock, and I ran behind. I was cutting this hair like this.
Oh, yeah.
I was so nervous, but look, you learn. It's what you do badly is what teaches you what to do right.
Correct.
And during the course of I'm jumping, of course, here.
Go ahead. Yeah.
During the course of my career at Sassoon's, you have to start learning to become one line or the other. You go As a stylist, you become management. If you're good enough and you want to become, that's the direction you go into, the management direction. Or you can go into the artistic side, and they were the two sides, or you could be just a general worker. They were the three directions. The artistic side became, of course, Vidal was the artistic director, and then the second one after him, when he started retiring, was Roger, and then Christopher along with him. I became Vidal's junior, and I found very, very interesting, because 6 months I was Vidal's junior, and I travelled around England with him. We did tours, we did shows, and what I found is that by watching Vidal cut hair, I learned how to cut hair by watching. It was because there was no teaching at that time, nobody taught you. You stayed behind at night time from Monday, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Every single week you had to stay and do a model. There was no two ways about it. If you didn't, you were out. So we did models, but we didn't have anybody really teaching. Occasionally one of the stylists would stay behind and tell you what they wanted you to do or help you through an area. But I found myself learning more when I was helping other people. So because I was Vidal's junior, I was the senior junior, if there's such a thing as senior junior, senior junior. And so I would be able to help people. And I found when I would tell them what to do, that's how I was learning. And I was like, yeah, you do this. And my brain was going, wow, I know, yeah. I was learning myself, And, so that's how I started. I started to become the teacher of Sassoons. One of the things that I learned the most was I mentioned that a young lady, Maria Sugarman, who was brilliant, never did the hair cutting as we know it today. She was a hairdresser. But Maria was a setter. She'd put the styling lotion on and she would set the hair. And when it came out, she'd brush the hair through and it would come out beautiful for what she wanted. And I said to her one day, how do you know where to put the rollers and the pin curls? How do you know where to put them? She said, watch and you will learn, and one day you'll know how. I thought, maybe when I'm 90 years old, I might do that. One day I'm watching her, and I swear to you, within probably 3 or 4 months later, I'm watching her. She's putting the rollers in, and I'm going, she's going to put one here. That one's going to go forward. I could see the pin. I knew exactly. It was like it clicked. And I went, I got it. Yeah. And that was the first time I really started to understand setting. Yeah. Then from setting, I understood how, because of that days, we had to learn pin curls. We had to learn to do them. We never weren't allowed to use clips. Had to use little hairpins. We'd take the pin curls, twist it, and we'd flick. It would just a little flick, and the pin would go in and hold it. One hairpin had to hold one curl. And we did that, and you learn how to comb the hair into place and do finger waves. And that, to me, was probably one of the best educations I had, because it taught me the motion of hair when I'm cutting hair. You're looking for the movement of hair, and it was more than just cutting a straight line, because when we were learning to cut hair, we were just learning. We were our eyes were focusing on the ends of the hair where you cut. That's where we were really looking for. But we didn't look for what was happening from there to there, because we were always pulling it down straight. So setting helped me learn hairdressing and become, I would say, a better hair cutter. But we were all good hair cutters. In fact, I would say that I wasn't the best hair cutter there, and there were a lot of people that were a lot better than I. But I had a very good knowledge of technical, how to put the words to make people understand it. And I realized that, it wasn't just the cut. You had to have the mindset. And it was an interesting time. There was another stylist there called John Hilliard. And John was, again, like Maria, a fantastic hairdresser. He was more hairdressing than he was cutting. John would put in rollers. He had the biggest clientele you could make. I mean, they would wait for hours and hours for him. He'd put the rollers in, put them under the hairdryer, and when they came out, each roller that he took out, as he took the roller out, he didn't brush it through. he backcombed it and laid it in. Then took the next piece, backcombed it and laid it in. It's like an artichoke. You know, it was just perfectly in place. Now, it's not today's world, you know, it wouldn't survive in today's world. But in those days, it was fantastic. And, you know, you started to learn that, you know, there's different ways of hairdressing. And there I was working with John. I was assisting him for a few times. You know, so we all helped each other. And Vidal was there every day. So me as Vidal's junior, when Vidal wasn't there, which was probably 2-3 days out of the week he wasn't there, you know, you became a floating junior. You'd just go to whoever needed help. So John was always the busiest, so, you know, help John. And I was helping John, and John had a very Jewish clientele, and they all had curly hair. They all wanted it straight. And John would take the roller out, and he'd take a Denman brush, and he'd take a hairbrush, a hair dryer rather, and it was a Vigo Typhon, a 400-watt dryer, you know, which had no power, and he would blow dry it and try to get it straight. And then one day he's doing that, and I'm just standing there by the side of him, and I said to him, I can do this, I can hold the blow dryer, so I'm holding the blow dryer while he's doing the brush. And I said to him, I can do that, I can even do that, you know. So I started blow drying, and he went off to another client. And other people were watching, you know, and probably be doing it without their stylists as well. And so that was the beginning of blow drying. And then we started to realize that you could do it from wet, because what we started to do is put a roller in the top, comb the hair absolutely straight with a cut after the cut was done, throw a hairnet on it, but put one roller in the top, put them under a dryer for about 10 minutes, enough for the roots to dry, but the ends were still wet. Then take it out and brush it through smoothly on the wet part so that you can put them back under a dryer for another 5 minutes to try to dry it. And then take the blow dryer or a hot comb at the time and try to blow it. And then we started to realize we could do it from wet, you know, and so the rollers started to go away, you know. You know, it didn't happen overnight. It happened over, you know, a little bit today, a little bit tomorrow, a little bit the next day, you know, and then slowly you look back and you kind of go, oh, I can blow dry her hair, yeah. And we were good at blow drying. In fact, that was the juniors became the best blow dryers and stylists out of them all, because we were the first, and we were watching cutting being done. Vidal was a very unique man in his ability, you know, but he was also a lunatic, you know, to work around. The man was like, if he was doing a haircut, or worse, he was doing a set, he had to take the curl, he had to pull the hair into the place, and now his eyes are looking at that at the end of his fingers, and he wants now a hairpin. His eyes would go like this. His hands would move to the side, but his eyes wouldn't move. He would stare at the hands where he's playing, and he'd want the hairpin to appear in his hand. And then there's me with the hairpins going, and if it wasn't there, he'd be snapping his fingers and banging his foot on the floor. You had to be on top of it. There was no way in between, you know. And we had other people that joined us, you know, as Paul Mitchell came in as a stylist, and he never really went through the cutting technique, but he was a personality at the time, and you know, life was probably the most fun you could ever have. You know, it was a time when we were learning, but most important, we were having fun. We'd get there in the morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. My job was to clean the mirrors, and you know, and one of the other juniors would have to, you know, wipe the dressing stations. We didn't have cleaners, and we would sing. We would have. They could have recorded us. We could have been the pop stars of the year. You know, we'd be singing in the morning. You know, we all liked each other. We were friends. You know, and I started to become a teacher in the evenings. Not because I had to, because I liked it. I really liked teaching. And, my job was eventually to take Vidal, Roger, Christopher, take all their haircuts, which was sometimes very, very, a little bizarre, sometimes a little bit radical. And, sometimes it was there, but you couldn't explain it. And I had to break it down into an easy teaching technique, because eventually we had other people coming in that wanted to learn their techniques. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you couldn't do it from Roger, who was left and right-handed. It was too complicated. Christopher was not a teacher. Vidal couldn't teach to save his life. And, so my job was to break it down into ABCs. Yeah. And that's how, I learned that's how I developed what I call the hair cutting foundation, really. It really isn't my foundation. It's the foundation that we learned back in the 60s, the 70s,
I've always felt I was setting hair, backcombing hair, putting hair pieces in, and then Sassoon came along. And it was not just the cutting, it was the terminology that for the first time when you heard this angle and holding angle and cut, it was just like this whole world opened up. And when you would look at those photographs and then you would hear that terminology, it just blew your mind. And it was brilliant. It was brilliant.
Well, yeah, it was. We didn't know we were doing it at the time. Again, when sometimes you do things and you don't know you're doing them. One of the things that I learned when I was about 17. I just become a stylist, and I didn't really know what I was doing, but I took a martial art course of Aikido, and which I don't practice it anymore, but I did it for quite some years. And I found that learning that martial art taught me a lot about hair cutting, because you learn how to stand, where to stand, how to move your arms, how to move your body, and how to move your leg. And Lulu, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's just part of the craft, hair cutting, to teach people how to stand, because many hairdressers couldn't do a haircut. It wasn't that they didn't understand it, they were uncomfortable. And sometimes uncomfortable is because your legs are in the wrong position, you're standing in the wrong place. And those are the things that I found that martial art really, really taught me a lot. It was an interesting thing to do. The techniques that we learned was, they evolved every single day. Every day we came in and we were thinking about another angle, another direction. Do we pull it this way, pull it that way? What happens here? Everybody was trying to come up with another geometric haircut, But the most important thing is, we were transitioning away from the backcombing, big hive hairstyles into flatter, more sculpted types of look. And that was changing the world completely, which... we didn't know. We didn't know. I wish I had a video camera at that time, but they weren't invented.
But Tony, you were around all those people, and you took what you learned from each and every one of those and made you who you are today. You're a fantastic, educator. So you can put it into words. You can write it out.
Yeah.
Where a lot of these guys couldn't do it without you.
You have to learn to do it all, One thing that I did learn, I'll give you an example. Joshua Galvin became the general manager. He's the manager of the Bond Street Salon. I'm sure you've heard of Joshua Galvin.
Yeah, of course.
Josh and I became very good friends, and me and Josh and Roger, we lived close to each other, so we would hang out in the night times. Joshua made me the under manager, or what we would call today here in the assistant manager. I was under the manager. You're under. And get down. So I became the under manager. So what happened is, and I was 17. Well, at 17 years old, I didn't know what management means. I didn't even know how to spell it. I had no idea. And I was probably, I would say, the worst manager that Vidal Sassoon's ever had. In fact, Vidal called me in one day. He said, "You're not doing very good as under manager. I think we're going to have to take you off of this position." It was so like, it was so, such a blow to my ego, beside me.
Yeah.
He said, "But I'll tell you this, we will not have another under manager, and we'll wait until you are either ready or we won't have another under manager." And I kind of felt good about it. I don't know if he really kept it because there was another under manager, but, it made me feel good at the time. And I realized that's when I realized that you've got to understand where you're going. You've got to understand all the details of what it entails. I think might have mentioned, there's five words that I always keep to teach people, and I call it the basics. And the basics is very simple. BASICS. Is that six letters? BASICS. Oh, six. So there you go. And what that simply means for us is, B is for business. We are in business no matter what. We're in business even if you're standing by yourself in the salon, and you are in business for yourself. So you are the president and you are also the janitor of your own company. You make your decisions and you have to clean up your mess. A is artistry. We are in an artistic business, which for some people do not understand. Artistic businesses are very different to academic type businesses. So A is for artistry. S is for sales. Like it or not, we are all in sales. I'm selling myself to you right now. You're selling yourself to me. We sell ourselves on a daily basis. It's not a dirty word. Sales keeps us moving. I is for information. We are in information overload in our worlds today, with media and computers and everything else. Well, information comes in every corner of our world. When you've got that information, what do you do with it? That's the C, the communication. How well can you communicate that information that you've absorbed and you've learned? So communication is the most important. That's what a lot of hairdressers don't learn properly, is how to communicate. They learn how to do the haircut, how to set the hair, how to do the color, but they don't know how to communicate it to not only their staff, but to their clients and to other people around. And the last S is service. We are in a service business. So they're the basics of our industry that I always tell people. You've got to understand business, art, sales, information, communication, and service if you want to be a whole person. I remember saying, this was about a week before Vidal passed away, because after I'd left Sassoon, I went out and I did my own thing for many years. And Vidal and I, you get older, the age difference doesn't become so great. When I was 15 and he was 28, he was a big man. I couldn't talk to him. But when I started, I get to 50 and 60 years old, suddenly, it's only 10 years difference. It's not a big deal anymore. So we would talk, and we would, I'd probably say that, maybe on every other week we would have, I would call him or he would call me, and we would have minimum conversation, but it was always, how you doing, what's going on, how's the family, all that stuff. And I came really close with his family. I always have had, they call me Uncle T, so. But I said to Vidal, this was the week before he passed away. He called me, and he called me out of the blue, and I said, "Hi, Vidal, how you doing?" He said, "Well, I've had a good life." And it was like my heart went, yeah. I said, "Yeah, you have. What's going on?" He says, "Well," and he started talking about various things. And I said to him, "Vidal, I need to ask you a question. What would you, looking back into your life, what would you say is the most important thing that you learned? Was it that changed you in an industry? Was it the 5-point haircut? Was it the bob? Was it geometrics? What was it?" And he stopped and he said, "That's an easy answer. The mindset. Changing the mindset of an industry. That's what motivated me." And I always remember that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, everybody has their different things. Everybody comes back and wants to learn the new haircut. And I've never wanted to learn a new haircut, I don't try to design. I don't try to be Mr. Creative. I'll leave Mr. Creative to somebody else, you know. I don't know who the latest clothing fashion designers are. I don't know who the greatest painters are in the world. It's just not something that I've gone. But I can tell you about the teachings. I can tell you about philosophy. And when I even will laugh over this one, even when looking at computers, we had a lot of problems, folks, before we started on this. This was supposed to be 2 hours ago, but Lulu's very good at technology, you know.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I'm just better. Anyway, but even when computers first came out, I had to take my computer. I had an old 8086, which means nothing to most people.
Yeah.
I had to take everything out and I had to put it back in by myself. I had to see how it worked for me to be able to use it. And that's the way it is for me, even though with cutting and color. I have to see it and understand the intricacies of what they're doing. That's why when I'm watching a haircut, you might see me. If I'm watching, I might turn on my side like that. So I'm starting to become that person. You know, you start to become how to move with them. So, and of course, you know, communication goes with this as well. You know, it's this, and it's this, and it's this.
Right.
And that's probably the most important thing. How good a listeners are we?
Well, you know that all the experience that you had brought you to Matrix on the other side of the pond, right?
Yes.
And Marcy, which is a good friend of ours, also Marcy Kona,
Yeah.
she was head of Matrix, or I don't know what her title was, and she brought you
director of
on.
education or something at the time.
Yeah.
I think so.
And she brought you on as the head person to develop the craft cutting.
Yes.
And I think it was the Altieri brothers and Nicholas French, and it was you, and then I was the only woman.
It was a nightmare.
Yeah, well, yes. And I can remember walking in. I was, so prepared with my little flip chart, and you totally dismissed me. I said, well, I know that who he is, and I know that he has a wealth of knowledge. So I just listened to you the whole time. So, Tony, hats off to you. You taught us so much.
Dismissed you. I didn't mean to dismiss you. I would have waited at least another hour, but no.
I was going to say, if you didn't, one of the other gentlemen would have. So
Right, exactly.
I know that, crew.
One of the things that we had there, which was probably one of my biggest challenges about Matrix was already an established company, from Arnie Miller. And in the team, which I became the coach, I did not want to be the artistic director. We had Vivian McKinder, Nicholas French, the Altieri brothers, Tony and Rico, Lulu. We had people there that were powerful in this industry. And everyone has their own way, their own techniques, their own philosophy, their own way of doing things. And my job was to try to bring them all together. Well, it was a fight, because when I came to Matrix, and you may not even know this, my first reason to coming to Matrix was I got a call from Vidal Miller. I was working with a company called Image Laboratories in the West Coast, and I was their artistic director. There was only because I was the only one. And so I directed myself. They went out of business, okay, because I didn't do good work, probably. But, they went out of business, and then so I was like in limbo, like no job, and I had a company car, and they took the car away, so I had no job, no car, and I was like, and no money, and I was like right in the middle. And my wife, who wasn't my wife at the time, Christina, was the chemist, and she got laid off the same day because the company went out of business. So now she had a car, and I had an apartment. That's how we got together. I can use your car, you can use my apartment. And so, she wouldn't listen to me, so we had to get married. But so I got this call from Vidal Miller, and at the time their director of communication, which was Rick Kornbluth, and they said, well, maybe it's time for you to come and work with us. And I said, boy, messages and the messages travel fast. They said, why, what's going on? Remember, we didn't have internet at that time.
Yeah.
All we did, it was just, email was like really slow. We didn't, nobody had it. It was AOL online,
Yeah.
And he said, Michelle said, so what is happening? Is there something happening anywhere? Are you not with Image anymore? I said, they went out of business last week. And I was like, oh. Suddenly she said, well, you've got to come work with us. We're sending you a ticket. And then I got a ticket and I was like flying to Cleveland. I mean, who the hell knew, I was going to have 8-year sentence to Cleveland. And, they put the handcuffs on me, said, get going. It was when I came in, my job coming in was, because I had started to learn chemistry and product development, was to work with the chemists and to develop new products for them. But I didn't realize that all the chemists at Matrix hated each other. None of them talked to each other. It was worse than being in a bad salon with bad stylists.
Oh, wow.
None of them liked each other, and the marketing people didn't like anybody there. And I was like, came in not knowing this, and I remember going to one person, I will not mention her name, and I said to her, she said, well, what are you going to be doing here now that you're here? So I said, well, my job, is product development and education. She said, well, that's what I do. So are you here to say my job? Oh, God. I mean, that's how I started. And I spent the first year not knowing what to do. I had an office that I didn't know whether I'm in education, I'm in R&D, I'm in the chemist, I'm working with them. I had no idea. So it was a matter of learning. And so I concentrated more on product development and learned chemistry. And that's how I do today with product development. I do product development. I don't, I learned the chemistry. Now I direct my own chemist, or he directs me, whichever the case,
Do you have your own line?
No, I don't want my own line. No, let everybody else have that problem. I'll develop the products for them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I develop the products. I can openly say I develop Moroccan oil. I developed Kevin Murphy. I still do. I still my big clients, and some others, that I help to develop. And once I've developed them with the chemistry and the working with their marketing, see what I've got the ability to do now, that you learn all the different directions. I can take the information from the marketing people. I can translate that information over to the chemists because I understand the chemistry, and then I can test it as a hairdresser and as a consumer. So it's a big, wide range that I have that ability. So a lot of, even though I've got a couple of celebrity clients that literally rely on my words every time,
Yeah.
And, it's a good thing to be in. I don't take on new clients unless I have to or want to. They've got to be nice. If they're not nice to me, I don't do it. Yeah.
Wow.
So first thing I say when I interview them, I say, are you going to be nice to me?
Yes.
Tony, I have to ask, I'm going back, do you still stay in touch with Vidal's children, his family? Are you?
Eden and myself are really close. We talk often. Elan as well. Beverly, I talked to his ex-wife. We're close. Yeah, if I called her right now, she'd answer the phone right now. So,
Yeah, that's
not
great.
as much as we want to, I mean, as life goes on, you find that you haven't talked to somebody in 3 months, and 3 months doesn't mean so much as it used to be, we're still in touch, very much so.
Lulu's children call me Auntie Sue too.
Since we share the same birthday.
Lulu and I are born on exactly the same day in the same year. We're twins. We truly are.
Dark-headed, one's light-headed.
Yeah.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's the story of my life, and I'm going to tell, like it or not, that's what it is.
What do you see as the next chapter?
Oh God, if I knew what was happening tomorrow, I'd be doing it today. I don't know. I can't really answer that too well because I think that would be trying to say that I can foresee a future. Right at the moment, today the world has to understand, in our business, that there is more than just can I do a good haircut. Everybody. In fact, it's actually hard to do a bad haircut today. I do see there's always the gimmicky ones, the ones that stand up on the stage and then throw the hair up in the air, and and they'll use a leaf blower and all the stuff. That's never going to stop. They're always going to have the radical people. I would like to think that hairdressers would like to learn more about the business side. I really think that the business is lacking. They say they know it, and I really wish the hairdressers would walk the talk by dressing better.
Mm-hmm.
I know that it's very in today to wear a dirty pair of old jeans and a t-shirt and tattoos all up your bum. I know that's very, very in vogue in many cases, but we don't differentiate ourselves. And they say I'm a professional. Well, I wouldn't feel comfortable having my dentist or my doctor or my esthetician if they were covered in various things. So I think that we need to revisit ourselves and reinvent ourselves somehow. And I don't say that every guy should wear a shirt and tie like we did in the 60s, because times change. But I do think that we need to take care of ourselves, and we need to take care of our businesses, and we need to be able to for people to give us respect. We need to give respect, and sometimes giving respect is visual as well as what we say and what we think and what we do. But if I knew what was going to happen, I really do. I don't know. I do know that hairdressers today they've got more opportunity of education than they've ever had before. But education is really nothing more than information, and you can't become a top hairdresser, a top anything by going onto YouTube. YouTube will definitely give you inspiration. You'll look at it and go, oh, that's good. Oh, I can understand that technique. Yeah, we all do it, and there's certain things. I can go onto a YouTube and I can learn how to make an adjustment to my computer. But I'm not a computer technician. Right. So it will make a big difference. So we need to be able to have more availability of good education at an affordable price that people can afford. And, I think, a lot of little things, I'd probably get rid of the whole state board type situation or change it completely. I think it's 60 years outdated. And it just needs to be modernized, and the people who are testing you don't know how to do it themselves. So and I don't mean this, if somebody's watching this, I don't mean this for everybody. There's exceptions in every rule. There are some that are probably fantastic, but generally speaking, we need to be able to give the new people in our industry opportunities of learning and growth. That means they've got to learn the basics of our industry. They've got to learn what business is. They've got to understand that if they want to be a top stylist, they want to be a salon owner, they want to be successful, they're going to have to learn business. And it doesn't mean that you have to learn, how to do a spreadsheet. You can get other people to do that, but you've got to have the insights to understand what does it take to do business. I get hairdressers all the time saying to me, I'm thinking about having my own product line. Could you develop it for me? And I said, well, before we do, let me ask you a question. Do you have, hang on a second. Let me ask you a question. Are you funded? Funded? Do you have an infrastructure? Do you have marketing? Do you have sales and distribution set up? No. To most of them, they go, then you're not ready for a hair product line.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you take a hair product line, what are you going to do with it? Here you go. Here's a bottle. Ooh-wee.
Yeah.
So it doesn't do anything. So that goes with anything in our industry. Listen, I'm getting old. I'm the old guy now.
Yeah.
Well, it's true,
We're the old,
We all are. Yeah.
If I could do it all again, I wouldn't change a damn thing, But I would try to do is maybe learn a little bit more about life. That's what, and wouldn't try to be so arrogant that I used to be. I used to be a hotshot little arrogant guy, Now I'm just a hotshot guy,
Or just a hot guy, right?
Hey, see, I've seen some pictures of him with hair on his head.
Yeah, I've seen some pictures.
Where can they find you? Where can the audience find you?
They can find me usually on the street in the corner of 54th and 4th. I'm usually hanging out there between 9 and 11 at night.
Yeah.
I always respond back to people if they email me, Tony@TonyBeckerman.com or info@TonyBeckerman.com. My website is TonyBeckerman.com. Guess what? How you thought that. On my website, I've got my phone number. I've got my Facebook. I'm from Facebook, so I try to keep up. Anybody can call me. Anybody can talk to me at any time. I will never turn anybody away. Anybody who wants to have a conversation for any reason, an inspiration, anything, will always talk to them, no matter whether they're new or they're experienced. I have no problem, because I remember what I was like when I needed that inspiration. So I just desperately remember going to people and saying, I would love to talk to you about it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my story, and I'm staying with it.
Well, Tony, you've been such an inspiration to all of us. You're such a wealth of knowledge, and what can I say? What can I say?
You can say
but
more.
we had an interviewer that came on on our podcast, and he said that because things are changing so much, with the internet, that they just do little blips of information and their breadcrumbs to lure them into their educational program.
Yeah.
And that's what you said, is that everybody needs that education, whether it's, opening your salon, or whether it's cutting, whether it's styling, whatever it is, it's education.
Yes.
And you definitely do that.
Yes. Thank you. Well, I know we've got to cut short because I have another conference call in 4.5 minutes.
Well, thank you so much for being with us. Any closing words you want to say, Sue?
Well, just that you're such a delightful person. You're so down to earth, and yet such a vast reservoir of information. It was just great to get to share this time with you. And
Thank you.
as we say
I'd love to do it again.
yes.
Yeah, we'll definitely have you on again.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we don't want to keep you from that conference call, but we enjoyed every minute you shared with us.
Me too.
Thank you so much, Tony.
Always fun to see Lulu again, so, she calls me every day normally, but
Right, yeah. I'm going to call you now every day.
soon you need to call me every day as well. So.
I might start. Be
By the
careful.
way, go see Vidal Sassoon the movie.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Everyone should go.
See it.
Every hairdresser needs to see that.
See it. Agreed.
I had the book.
Yeah.
And I'm in the book. I'm in the
Yeah.
book. I'm in the movie. Just don't blink or you'll miss me. But but every hairdresser should see that. That is an inspiration in itself. So,
Yes.
Wow.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thanks all.
Wow, what an episode. That wraps up another exciting edition of Artists, Icons, and Entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you're leaving inspired and ready to chase your dreams. Don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode over at youtube.com/artists, icons, entrepreneurs, as well as Facebook at Lulu Benavidez, on IG at Lulu Benavidez, at Evolve Hair Solutions as well. And don't forget to visit our website at lulubenavidez.com and evolvehairsolutions.com to stay updated. Until next time, keep dreaming big, creating boldly, and making your mark on the world. Thanks for listening, and take care, everyone.